Hello everyone, I'm Romilly and today we are going to be talking about how you find arts and culture activities in your town or your local area. Here to help us find out more is Kath Shackleton from Fettle Animation, who is also a freelance creative producer.
Thank you for having me. Really pleased to be here.
Did you ever grow up feeling like there was nothing going on where you lived, and how did that motivate you?
Yes, I grew up in Bradford during the 1980s, and it was quite a difficult time to be a young person. Mrs. Thatcher said some very, very horrible things about young people. There was lots of hopelessness around the Cold War and nuclear bombs and all of that. So we all felt quite angry, quite hopeless. The buildings that we were in, there were bits falling off because there was a long time where things weren't invested in properly. And we were brought up to feeling like young people didn't matter. And that made me feel quite angry when I was young. And so instead of not doing anything, it actually motivated me to do more. So where there weren't things set up, we worked hard as young people to make things happen for ourselves.
Wow. What sort of things did you set up?
Well, I was involved in the peace movement when I was young. I was a campaigner and I set up an activist group. We set up a young Bradford Youth CND back in the day, campaign for nuclear disarmament, and it was quite fashionable at the time. All the bands were talking about those issues. So as part of that, I set up some fundraising events, and in and amongst that, I started running a set of music events, of benefit gigs, which me and my friends were all involved in organising. And I also, over that time, became involved in something called the 1 in 12 Club in Bradford, which when it begun, it was just a bunch of people setting up music nights in different pubs around the area. Again, with that angry spirit, I suppose, really, of the time. And I helped with learning about the PA system and the sound and how all that was set up. And then eventually, the 1 in 12 Club took over an old mill in the centre of Bradford and did it all up. And I was helped out a bit with a painting and with some of the events there and some catering for things as well. So that was quite an exciting thing, and it's still there, and it's celebrating, I think, it's its 40th anniversary this year, which shows me how old I am. Oh dear.
Well, so it shows that you gained a lot of public attraction through doing all of that.
So it was all very exciting, and it made us feel very good. It got a bunch of young people together. I went from being involved in the local youth CND group to running it, and then I ended up involved in the regional group and then in the national group. So I went from being involved locally to doing stuff in London as well. So it took me from Bradford and opened my horizons to the rest of the world as well. So the youth CND stuff really, I was passionate, I was fired up, I was angry, all of those things, which kind of makes you want to do things for yourself. But it was in spite of the times that we were in. But looking back on it, I was very well supported by some of the things around me and by adults who were very supportive and helpful. So at the time, there was a place called Bradford Resource Centre, which helped us with a meeting space, with photocopying, with equipment and so on. The university and the College Students' Union gave us venues that we ran our events in, and all the bands and the artists were just incredibly generous and equally passionate and angry about the subjects as we were, so they wanted to be part of things. And it was very fashionable at the time as well. Everyone wore their C&D badges and so on, so it was all part of a movement around the time. And for me, it gave me power and agency and voice, and I loved organising people and things and bossing people around, which has set me up in fairly good stead for bossing around many people in my adult life. But it made me feel great, and I had lots of people who said very, very nice things about the events that I'd organised, and we'd raised money to help a good cause, and it was a really, really good way of getting going and out there.
Yeah, the next question sort of links to what you've done. Where do you actually find creative opportunities if they're not obvious, and are we just looking in the wrong places?
Well, like in all things in life, you have to make your opportunities. You have to be kind of aware of where there might be opportunities. So it comes with a mindset. It comes with a mindset of possibilities. And where others might see a closed door, it's sometimes being a little bit cheeky and putting your foot in it or pushing against it or going, what if we did this? Or there's a blockage here. Someone says no. Who might help me to get that person to say yes? Huddersfield, I've been here now for 25 years. I absolutely love this town. I think it's a really beautiful place, but I can see that from a young person's point of view, with all the shops closed, it feels quite bleak and grim at the moment. But look a bit closer in the back streets. There's lots of things bubbling under and going on. So it's a matter of looking for it. And sometimes as well, if you can't find what you want to happen, make it happen for yourself. There's probably a lot more things going on than there ever was. But is it for you? It's finding out that information, isn't it? Are you welcome? Is it for young people? Does it matter? Can you walk in a room full of older people like me and still enjoy yourself? Those are things that, you need to kind of think about, really. But there's great access to information. So there's a website called Creative Kirklees, which gives all the information about the events and the different things that are happening. There's obviously the destination platform, which has lots of amazing things on it as well. And we've got brilliant university and Kirklees College, who are also going out their way to provide information.
Well, actually, touching back to you mentioning the websites, it links to the question, do you think social media has made it easier or harder to discover local creative stuff, especially on platforms like Instagram or TikTok?
I think it's made it a lot easier to find out about stuff, but the amount of information can be overwhelming. It's easy to get distracted. There's lots of people trying to sell you stuff. And it's not obvious that they're trying to sell you stuff, so it's quite hard to know who to trust. And you also get this idea that everyone else has got this perfect life apart from you. And it's not the case. They say those people who are selling the perfect life are usually trying to sell you something else. And certainly it's possible that with the right mindset, you can use social media to your own advantage. So you can build your own audience, you can build your own platform, you can learn how to do new stuff. Things that used to cost you thousands and thousands of pounds to learn, you can learn for free on the internet. Be careful of who's trying to sell you what underneath it all. But there is a lot more that you can do. But it is, again, about mindset and about keeping strong in yourself and knowing that those creative opportunities are there, and it's about how to look. And I think a lot of it is about attitude, and it's, is your glass half empty or is your glass half full? And it's looking at, okay, what is there in front of me? What possibilities are there? How can I add to those possibilities? What can I do to get myself out there? What do I enjoy? What do I want to do? And being very clear in yourself about who you are and what you want to do. And the world's your oyster.
Yeah, definitely. What would you recommend if there really isn't anything happening? How realistic is it for young people to start something themselves? Where would you begin, or where would you start to focus on?
Well, start with an idea. Start with yourselves. And you've got a group of people who perhaps at similar ages, similar interests. Where might there be a place to begin with those things? What do you have that other people might benefit from? So it's looking around, seeing what there is. In Huddersfield, we have some amazing community-run venues. You have to check out whether you need to be 18 to be part of them, but I think they're pretty open to possibilities. And at the moment, we have the Hive Community Cafe, which is a community-run social enterprise, and they're open to having exhibitions and live events and groups running in there. There's also a new venue called Amped, which does amazing things, and the Parish and the Northern Quarter, and they're all places. There's our wonderful Proper Job Theatre Company who help people with creative ideas to turn them into reality, so they run courses to help people get their ideas off the ground. Nationally, I was supported. So back in the day, again, I didn't do very well at university. I didn't complete my course and I was worrying about how I was going to start myself off. And I had an idea about making puppets and using them to educate children and young people, and also to become a street performer. And the Prince's Youth Business Trust at the time were incredible, really, really helpful. They helped me to pass my driving test and supported me to buy a van. I got a grant and a bit of funding from them to get things going. I think it's now called the King's Trust, obviously because the Prince is now the King, but that's amazing. And they run courses as well to help people with their confidence, so they're really helpful. And there's also an organisation called the Young Women's Trust that's about removing barriers for young women getting into employment. So there's lots and lots of places that you can start to get help. And Destination is a good place to go as well to begin to find out the latest information about what's going on and who's available.
Brilliant. Do you think young people's ideas for events are taken seriously? Because as a young girl myself, I've had quite a lot of ideas that I've put out there and I've just had people laugh and think, no, that's not going to happen, you're just wasting your time. Do you think that young people's ideas for events are taken seriously?
I can't really comment on that. I think in all the creative industries, there's an amount of rejection that you've got to go through. And for every good idea, there's another 20 bad ones that have ended up on the floor. And you have to just get tough. And I'd say when you're coming up with an idea, it's obviously thinking as much of it through as possible before you begin. So what are the things that you'd need? What help do you need on board? Practically breaking it down and working on your own confidence so that when you're pitching the idea, you're as strong as you possibly can be. So with my animation company, I've had to pitch a lot of ideas for television. And it's been really quite scary sometimes. You're out of your comfort zone with the people that you're talking to. But it's about developing a really strong and clear idea. And why you? Why now? All those things are in there. So, yeah, but hopefully if you worked through a strong idea and you present it well, then you've got as good a chance as anybody else. And it's getting people together. When it comes to funding in particular, funds are quite tight these days. And if you're applying to the Arts Council, for example, it's very, very competitive and it's a matter of chance. So sometimes the same idea will be in a pot of other ideas that are similar, so you won't get through, and other times you will. So it is really about just keeping on going and keeping applying. And if you get rejection when you're coming up with an idea, okay, well, ask for feedback. Why did you reject that idea? Why did you think that was a silly idea? And learn on that for next time. And also sometimes it's not necessarily the idea that's a bad thing. It's timing. So again, with TV stuff, I found, okay, an idea doesn't work now because it's similar to this idea, but next year it might be just the perfect thing. So it's having several ideas up your sleeve at the same time so that you've got ideas ready to go and you're again in as strong a place as you can be.
Yeah, it's very much trial and error when it comes to that sort of thing. Why do you think some young people feel like, what's the point when it comes to getting involved locally?
With young people feeling despairing, I think it's quite easy to feel despair at the moment. I think there's a lot of hopelessness peddled in the media. The job situation is incredibly difficult for everybody. It feels like some of the mood is going back to the 1980s when I grew up. So yeah, it could feel very dispiriting to be a young person now. The town centre looks dreadful at the moment. There's no getting away from it. Any amount of positive spin, there's a lot of empty buildings. There's a lot of spaces that used to be full of shiny and exciting things, now lying empty. There's hope because there's new things starting to be built, new things happening. A lot of people who don't know what's going to happen, who feel, what's the point of trying to redevelop the town centre? I think there's a lot of people who've been made to feel bad about the place that they come from, that somehow the fact that the town centre is a shithole, that's the thing I hear a lot, it's a shithole, what's the point? It's like somehow it's a reflection on them, that they're not good enough, that coming from a place that they're not good enough, and it's not true. It's economic policy. It's deliberate in a certain way. It's running these areas down, sadly, for political manipulations going on, I think. And we need to stay positive. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe in our town centres and our towns and our places. Huddersfield is a beautiful town. Look up at the buildings. We've got the most fabulous buildings. Dewsbury, look up at the buildings. We've got such incredible history. We've got such beautiful architecture underneath. It all just needs thinking about in a different way. It all just needs a bit of love and a bit of attention and a bit of cleaning up and a bit of enterprise and a bit of bright ideas. You young people, you've absolutely got that enterprise, that bright ideas. So there's an empty space in front of you. Come on, fill it.
Yeah.
Get your friends there. Make something happen. Make a place bright and just turn off all those doom scrollers that tell you what's the point. It's like they're there to make you feel bad for their own gain. They're there to tell you that their beautiful lifestyle, they're selling you on social media, that, by the way, you've got to invest in this and do this and be there. And it's nonsense. In front of you, there is an opportunity to redevelop this town, to fill it with energy, to fill it with new ideas, to fill it with creativity, with enterprise, with commerce, with exciting things. And the world's all of our oysters. But at this stage, while things are still being developed, it feels a bit dark and grim.
Yeah.
We have a new opportunity, don't we? We have our cultural heart, which is going to be opening in the centre of Huddersfield, which will hopefully have a bit of a donut effect that will make new cultural things go on. We have a fantastic theatre, the Lawrence Batley Theatre, with all kinds of opportunities for young people in there. We've got Musica, we've got Yorkshire Youth and Music, all sorts of incredible people around and about. Also remember, we've got community centres, community venues, places that you can do things, old churches that have been taken over for community use. I live in Marsden, there's the Marsden Mechanics there, and that's a space that's open to do anything you'd like in, and people only too happy to help. Home Firth has got lots of fabulous venues and new things going on. So there's a lot of really good things going on in our area, and it really is about remembering that when all this doom is scrolling past us. And again, with the situation in the world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and what can I do? And Huddersfield's typical of all other small towns in and around the country. It's not just happening here, it's happening everywhere. But young people can be part of the solution. Young people can help to make new ideas to bring our town centres alive again, full of social opportunity. And we're talking now much more, it used to be based on a retail economy where people would go and buy things. Now it's more difficult for retailers to make a profit. So it's going to be much more about the experience economy, where people come along and they want to be entertained, they want something to eat, they want to look around. They may buy a few things, but it's going to be very different than it used to be. So it's for young people to adapt, to help show the way, really, with different generations, and to really bring our places alive and to celebrate what's special about every different place. And what used to happen is the town centres all the way around the country were exactly the same. They all had the same shops in, selling the same things. And now there's a chance for every town centre to be distinctive and different. And also a lot of the economic policy has gone towards developing the bigger cities. So we do have Leeds and Manchester on the doorstep here, and Sheffield as well, which show us some of what can be possible in bigger cities, and it's trying to spill some of that economic success into our smaller towns to bring things alive again as well.
Yeah, definitely. Linking back to when you mentioned environments and how Huddersfield, but also different places all around the country, have an impact on young people, what kinds of spaces make young people feel welcome?
Back in the 1990s, I trained as a youth and community worker. So I did lots of work with different groups of young people in and around West Yorkshire. I found it really interesting learning from different young people about what they wanted. People want spaces that are accessible in terms of transport. They want spaces where they feel welcomed. I'm quite excited. This government, we've not said many good things about them in the media, but just before Christmas they launched a new young people strategy, and there's going to be a big investment in youth centres again, so there'll be new spaces setting up, but it'll be a few years obviously if we're talking about new buildings happening. But yes, I mean, they need to be warm, friendly, welcoming. But equally, back in the day, in the 1980s, we were in pubs where our feet stuck to the floor. They were so filthy. But what made them welcoming was the people that were there, was the attitudes of the people that are there. It's the friendliness, it's the resourcefulness, it's the music, the art, the energy. So really, any space can be made that way. It's just about the people and the attitudes of them, really. And I think these days, since COVID, young people are much more anxious and nervous than they used to be. So there are places that have things like event buddies where you can get somebody to come with you, to support you, to help you feel a little bit less anxious in those places. Perhaps there's more opportunities for things like that to go on. But they can be very noisy, some of these venues. The toilets can be awful, etc., etc. It's tricky, isn't it? And also, I think there's all the stuff about disabled accessibility and those things which the venues around are not always ideal for. But yeah, and young people have all those issues as well as the rest of the population.
Yeah, well, that actually blends into the next question of what support actually exists for young people who want to set up a creative event, open mic, exhibition or collective, but just don't know it's there.
Well, Kirklees has a thing called the Culture Collective, and that's a group of people from all the cultural organisations that get together and talk about what they're up to and try and use the influence that Kirklees has across the Arts Council and other places. Our wonderful Proper Job run courses and training to help people with their confidence through theatre skills, but also they run courses that help support people develop professional skills in the creative industries. The West Yorkshire Combined Authority run lots of what they're calling creative boot camps, where you can get support in getting your idea off the ground. So those are really good. But friends, family, neighbours, just approach somebody. What support do you need? Ask for it. But sometimes just do it.
Yeah,
ask for forgiveness, not permission. If you do something wrong, learn from it quickly. Don't do it again. But sometimes the best way of learning is by doing, and as long as you're honest and kind to the people that are involved, you'll be forgiven, you know. Obviously, don't run away with all the money. Don't say mean things about somebody who's been involved. But otherwise, you know.
Perfect. How would you deal with fear of low turnout or people not taking you seriously if you start something new?
It's probably quite likely. So you've got to work hard. There's no easy shortcuts. You need good marketing underneath everything. So you need to get the word out there to as many people as possible. Encourage a friend to bring another friend, to bring another friend, to bring another friend. And it's that network, that word of mouth, that stuff. But yes, don't expect build it and they will come. You have to target your audience, and what we said again about social media and Instagram and TikTok and all of those platforms, use those to try and encourage people to come along with your event. Build in your financial projections, build them conservatively to start with. Don't expect to become a millionaire overnight, but it's that slow and steady thing and that building up an audience. How do you connect an audience from one kind of event to another? How do you explain to people what it is that you're doing? Can you send little snippets and extracts of things to whet the appetite of your audience? And again, how have people found out about what it is that you're trying to do? So can you make paths from one thing to another?
Just to finish off, could you suggest some projects that young people might be interested in?
So as a young person, there are just so many opportunities, and again, it's about your mindset. So if nothing's going on, set it up yourself. Could you set up a band? Could you set up an open mic night? Are you an artist? Do you want to do an exhibition? Do you want to sell cards? Can you make t-shirts? Who can you link with to be able to make your creative idea come alive, really? So there's lots of different ways that you can do things. Here in Kirklees, there's lots of venues that might be willing to take things on. Just bring along an idea. Think about what's in it for the person that might be helping you, how you can create a win-win situation so that what you're doing can help them with something that they're trying to do, but at the same time you get a fair and a good deal. Good business heads are always a good idea, but win-win is always a good starting point. So how can you benefit each other by bringing something along? There are lots of great organisations around. So we have lots of bars that host music things. Could you get involved there? Could you start off glass washing? Could you become bar staff? How could you find out more about the scene? Lawrence Batley Theatre in the centre of Huddersfield has opportunities to be a volunteer, to be involved in various creative groups and projects. There's a community production every year. Lots of different things that you can get involved with. So it's looking out there, really. As I say, Creative Kirklees will tell you the different things that are on offer in our area here. But other parts of the country will have their own listings, services, so find out about what's happening there. Lots of things going on. So I guess what I'd say is go out and do it. Go and find those opportunities, get yourself involved and be creative. It's brilliant. It's the best thing. It really is. You feel really good about yourself when you've achieved what you've set out to do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming in today and helping us to discover where we can find arts and culture activities.
Really enjoyed being here. Thanks ever so much. And I wish everybody the best of luck with their amazing creative ventures.
Thank you. You can find lots of interesting podcasts on a variety of subjects by exploring the useful podcast section on the Destination web app. Search destination.org.uk. You can also find them on Apple, Spotify or YouTube. If you would like to know more information, please check the podcast description. Finally, we'd like to thank Jimmy for editing, Youth Social for producing, and YPIP for funding these podcasts.